Hi, friends. Welcome back to Sorority Chat. There was quite a bit of chatter about the planning and executing a successful project. And so I wanted to come back and talk a little bit more in depth about the timeline side of things and how you can break down what the timeline should be, what things should be happening at what points as far as benchmarks, and what can help you kind of lay out your calendar so that you can have a successful project. Keep in mind, this is going to vary depending on the size of your project. So for this episode's purposes, I would say let's assume that this is a project where maybe you are updating maybe 1 to 3 rooms in the house in terms of finishes, furniture, and so on. And, you're probably starting about 6 months out from when you want to complete the project. And I will once again say, it is never too early to start. So don't feel like you have to wait until the 6-month mark. Sometimes, in some instances, that may be too short of a time period, depending on your tradespeople and how quickly they can get you on the schedule. Lead times in furniture and flooring and such, those are constantly changing. So again, it's never too early to start. But for this example, let's assume that we have 6 months to get something accomplished. So kind of breaking this down for you, you want to work backwards from your desired deadline. So again, for the sake of an example, let's say the women move in on August 1st. Then we want to give ourselves like a 2-week buffer. So then 2 weeks before August 1st will be our desired deadline to have all things complete, whatever you're changing. If you're painting, changing the flooring, updating light fixtures, getting new furniture, you want all of those things to be finished, the house to have had a deep clean, and the new pieces to have arrived. We're going to shoot for 2 weeks before the move-in. Now, this is not a perfect world, and hiccups arise all the time. And so you should be prepared that you may end up having to eat into that 2-week buffer some. But by having it, you're in a better position than if you were just planning to have everything finished by July 31st. I can tell you a lot of stories about construction delays, furniture delays, things that just you're not anticipating. So the more buffer that you give yourself, the more you'll be able to weather those surprise issues. If your facility is university owned, I recommend starting with the facilities folks, finding out what they will allow you to do. So you'll need to come up with a list of here are the things we want to accomplish. How does this work? Does the university want you to hire your own subcontractors and they just approve the plans? Is the university entirely hands off? I can tell you that's not usually the case. Some universities have preferred subcontractors. And so if you say we're going to do this flooring, they say, great, call these people. They're approved to work on buildings on this campus. All those things. You just need to have that discussion up front so you understand your parameters. In a great instance, the university may cover some of the expenses for you. So things like light fixtures, paint, flooring replacement. It will depend on how they run their facilities, as well as how old your facility is and what's going on campus. So there's a lot of variables in just this piece of things. So if you are university owned, once again, just getting on the phone or starting an email with them to start the conversation and see what help they can offer you and what parameters you have to work within to stay in good standing with them. If your facility is not university owned, then you don't have to clear it with the university, but you will probably want to check to see if there's any sort of headquarters level housing compliance or approval that has to be done. And just to kind of, dot all your I's, cross your T's, make sure you're in good shape before you start down a path of spending money and making changes. And then you don't want to come up with any kind of issues there. So all of that said, let's kind of start at like 6 months or more from your completion date. The things you want to start focusing on is determining the list of things that you would like to accomplish, which I already mentioned. You want to figure out what the desired budget for the project is. So when you look at your books for the chapter housing, how much are you wanting to invest of that money into this particular project that you want to accomplish? Go ahead and start gathering estimates. Again, depending on the type of project, you may end up bringing in like a GC, a general contractor at this point. You may be bringing in an architect and you may be bringing in a designer. It all is just going to depend on how you're set up and what your goals for the project are. So you kind of have to take this with a grain of salt and apply what is applicable to you when you're planning your project. So you want to go ahead and, like I said, start getting estimates. So perhaps that's getting the paint contractors in there, the flooring contractors, the electricians. If you have a GC, they're probably going to handle all of this for you, but you need to get that GC to start gathering those prices so you understand what you're looking at for labor costs and in some instances materials. Now, if you are having to pick out these finishes, I do recommend having a professional help you just to help you avoid mistakes. They can help you get the right level of durability and just the right aesthetic and look based on what you're trying to achieve, and it will save you from having to rip things out and replace them shortly down the road if there are any mistakes made. So gathering those prices is very helpful because then you can take a look and say, oh, is our budget reasonable? Is our budget unreasonable? And if it's unreasonable, you could go back to the drawing board, assess, okay, let's cut these two things from our list so that we can stay on budget. Or everything on this list is super important, so we need to figure out how to make that happen. Let's pull in some extra funds. Let's work on fundraising. What could we do to help build up the budget here? So that will all give you a really good financial picture at that point. Something to think about early is, will you need any storage for the existing items? So I'll give you a scenario. If you have hardwood floors and you're going to have them refinished, then you will need to remove all of the furniture that sits on the hardwood floors. Is there enough space in the rest of the house where there are not hardwood floors that those pieces can be stored? Or are you going to have to move them off-site into a storage facility or put them in a pod in the parking lot? These are things that are going to add into your costs. So consider, do you have to have anything stored? If you are replacing all the furniture, it may not be an issue, right? You could just sell it or donate all those pieces before the work gets started, and then no storage is needed. You want to then start getting your subcontractors scheduled. I'm kind of skipping the piece about making your selections. We talked a little bit about that in the other podcast, but between gathering the estimates and scheduling the subcontractors, your selections need to happen, whether that's someone on your board, whether that is your designer, whoever it is, paint, flooring, lights, all that's got to get selected so that you can double check your pricing, make sure everything's in budget, and then get on the schedule for these subs. The getting on the schedule is so key because these folks tend to book up, especially in the summer. A lot of people are doing projects at that point. If you're doing it at kind of an off time of year, you have a little bit more benefit of being able to get on the calendar more quickly. So like winter break and sometimes spring breaks can even be really beneficial times to get this stuff done. So get everybody scheduled. That way you know what you're working with timeline wise. You can check their timelines as far as when they can start and how much time they need to complete the work. Check that against your end target deadline and make sure all of that is kosher and is lining up the way that you want it to. At this point, too, if you're doing furnishings, you've probably had your designer measure the space or you've supplied them with the measurements, and space plans are happening and furniture selections are this is all like running in the background. So there's a lot of moving parts that are all happening at the same time. So all of this kind of planning, getting everything sorted is all going on, at this 6 months plus out from your deadline. When you are in that 4 to 6 month mark, Again, you want to make sure all of your finishes are complete because at this point you may have had some things that have gone out of stock that you thought you would get. Maybe something came back too high for your budget, so you went back and reselected a different flooring or a different light fixture. You've got kind of a couple months in there that you'll do this back and forth dance with the contractor, the designer, and your selections. And so then this is the time when you're just finalizing and saying, okay, we're ready to go. Again, it will also depend on what the lead times are. If your light fixture is going to take 4 months to get in, you might need to have made this selection sooner than that 4 to 6 month mark. Then moving to about the 3 to 4 month mark, you want to make sure that your furniture is ordered at that time. Again, a variable is how long the furniture might take to come in. If there's anything going on in the supply chain or port issues, all of that will affect that timeline for the furnishings, but your designer should be able to advise on that. But so this is the point. You want to make sure all of that stuff is ordered, and then they're going to track that for you. You want to make sure window treatments are ordered at this point too, because those workrooms can also back up a little bit in terms of projects. And so you want to make sure you're in line to get your pieces done so they can be installed on time to meet your deadline. Up to about 2 months out, this is a great time that you can sell or donate any unwanted pieces. That's furniture, rugs, light fixtures. I've had a lot of sorority clients have really good success selling items to fraternities on campus or even to members who are moving into off-campus housing and want to get a hold of some affordable furniture. They're all fine with it being secondhand. You can sell it off that way, make a little bit of money that goes back towards the project, and then it gets it off your hands. You're not having to pay a junk company to come and remove the pieces from the house. Habitat for Humanity is also another great resource. It doesn't cost you anything to have them donated. They will come and pick up the pieces, but sometimes they are a little bit booked out in terms of schedule, or they may only come to your area certain days of the week or days of the month. And so you want to make sure you have time to get all of that sorted. If you aren't having work done that requires the furniture to be moved out, you have a little bit more time to make this happen. In the instance that your project is happening while the students are living in the facility, you'll also have to factor that in. How long can we be without furniture? Do we need to wait till the last possible second to remove the old stuff right before the new stuff moves in so that the chapter women don't have a place to sit on? That we need them to be able to study and eat and have a place to hang out. We don't want them to be without those pieces. So all of that factors in here. Also, about the 2 month mark, you're going to want to go ahead and get on your house cleaner schedule to do a deep clean when the old stuff has been removed, when the flooring's done, the painting's done. A lot of the subs will clean up after themselves, but it's still not a deep clean. And so you want to make sure all of that dust, anything that might have streaked on the windows, all of it's cleaned up. That way, when your furniture comes in, it's a nice, sparkling, clean, new looking place. At this point, your art and accessories will probably be getting ordered as well if they haven't already. Then about 1 month out, at the latest, I would say, you want to contact the handyman because you want the handyman to be able to come and hang artwork and potentially window treatments if there's not a separate window treatment installer. So again, if this is a university facility, they may require that their facilities folks hang things for you in the space, but you will know that answer because you had that initial meeting with them on the front end. And so you know what their expectations are of you. And then at that point, you should also know what, if anything, it will cost you to have a university person do this. If you have an independent handyman or you're not university owned, then again, just get him to give an estimate or tell you about how many hours so that you know what it will take to get everything secured properly on the walls. A couple weeks out from that final installation date, you just want to check in and confirm with all of your subs that everything is on track. We're doing good. I know some of you use property managers and they'll be monitoring your projects for you. So just make sure everything is buttoned up and is going the way that you expect it to. And then if not, how can you adjust and what needs to be done to make sure that things can go smooth right up until the end. And then you'll get everything installed and there may be some loose ends from there and they'll just, you can manage them depending on if you're doing this yourself. You may have some things that you're still tracking that got delayed that will be coming in at a later date. Or if you have a design team in place, they'll be keeping up with that for you and arranging for that final delivery. These days, it is very rare that everything is 100% complete on that install day, but usually it's very minor items, something that just got delayed in trucking or in production and just didn't make it in time to the warehouse to make the delivery. And so those things usually get buttoned up within a few weeks after the installation. There are some unique instances that may not be the case, but for the most part, this is a really handy timeline for you to use in order to work backwards and make sure that you're achieving the goals of your project by the time the women move back. I know that sometimes we have a little bit of extra time if you're not recruiting in the fall. So if you're a deferred recruitment and not doing anything until January, that's always nice because it gives a little bit of breathing room. Like, yes, the women may be coming in the fall, but it's not the end of the world if we're missing this chair or the pillows aren't in or we have to come back with the chandelier. That gives you a little bit more breathing room. But if you are a fall recruitment, I cannot stress enough that honestly, starting at the end of the fall semester, the previous year, if you can start getting your ducks in a row then you are more likely to be able to breathe easy leading up to recruitment and know that your housing projects are done and the house is how you want it to look for that particular recruitment. I hope that this timeline helps you. I would love to know what feedback you have, if you've had a different experience or what your thoughts are on the feasibility of meeting these benchmarks. And as always, please like, share, and leave us a review. I will catch you next time.